All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here as always with Drew Dinsick. Hello, Drew. Today we're going to talk about some of the more notable games on the schedule in the NFL this weekend. Chiefs, Jags. I guess 49ers, Rams isn't one of the more notable ones, but there are some interesting elements to that one. And then Dolphins, Pats on Sunday night, which is going to be an epic. And then we'll close out with our best bets for the weekend. Let's start off with Chiefs, Jags. Not a lot of respect for your Jacksonville Jaguars, Drew, who are 3.5-point dogs at home to Kansas City. Looks like Chris Jones will play. We'll see what kind of snap count he has. I imagine he's going to be on something like the Nick Bosa plan. Chris Jones said himself that he will see if he's in football shape, judging by how he feels in practice. Looks like Travis Kelce is trending towards playing. I think the market is reflecting that at the moment. Total is 51. Which is the highest total on the board. Is this too much respect for Mr. Mahomes?
Yeah, I think respect is the key, Jay. I don't have a huge X's and O handicap here to support my Jags. I do believe that their offense, if Trevor Lawrence is getting the ball out quickly, if Peterson has some wrinkles beyond what we saw last week with this unbelievably dynamic, set of weapons, the Jags can score in this game, and they can go score for the Chiefs. And in the Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid era, the kind of answer to the question is, can you back this dog against the Chiefs? The answer was, can they score 30? And I think the Jags can say yes, based on the fact that you have, 5 weapons who all match up positively against their respective chief defenders. And so that's about where my optimism for the Jaguars being able to kind of steal one ends, because the Jaguars defense is wildly overmatched. And Chris Jones in particular being back on the field against an offensive line that has a cluster injury inside is spooky. But that said, respect, I think, is kind of the X factor here. Because this is probably fair market around 3, and there's a little bit of a surcharge on Chiefs because of the players coming back, a little bit of a surcharge on Chiefs because people believe they're going to bounce back from a tough loss on home. Okay. It is tough if you are the Chiefs to get up for every single regular season game. We know this. They tend to build into the season. They tend to try to be playing their best football in December and January. Meanwhile, their opponents throughout the regular season have been a good bet on, especially as dogs outside of 3, because every week that they play the Chiefs, that's their Super Bowl. Doug Peterson gets to get in the locker room and get these guys fired up for, this is your Super Bowl. If you win this game, we are in control of our division. We are in control of the conference because everybody else lost. And it's tough for me to see the Chiefs being able to answer that level of intensity if they are asked, because this isn't the Chiefs Super Bowl. You know what the Chiefs Super Bowl is, Jay? It's the actual Super Bowl. They've been there many times now, and they are the defending champions. And so just on the kind of intangible factor of what are you getting out of these players? And look, I don't lean into the narrative-y stuff all that often. And I'm literally just doing this in support of Jags futures, which gain equity if they win. Like, that's the name of the game here for me. But I do think there is something to be said about Jaguars. This game means the entire season for them. And Chiefs, this game means, it's another game. And oh, by the way, there's even a little bit less incentive for the Chiefs to leave it all on the field, because the Chargers lost, the Bills lost, the Bengals lost. It's realistically just a matter of, kind of keeping your players healthy and being in the mix for them. And so I can see a little bit of a motivational angle here for the home dogs. And to the degree that every other team in the AFC who knows their schedule, knows the Chiefs are on their schedule, they spent a little bit of time this summer. They put a couple wrinkles in the playbook that said, okay, well, we know that's going to be a tough one. Here's what our approach, here's what they've thought this through. This is not just we made it through week 1. Who do we got week 2? Oh, it's Kansas City. Uh-oh. No, they've been thinking about this for a while. I would expect some wrinkles and some interesting things that the Jaguars are going to roll out there. And I believe in Trevor Lawrence. And this is a huge test for him, because if he can go toe-to-toe with Mahomes and get a win, then all of a sudden he's going to be kind of thought of in the MVP market. Peterson's going to be thought of in the Coach of the Year market. But even more importantly, the path to the 1 seed for the Jaguars is going to be theirs for the taking. And that's what I'm the most excited about.
Yep. Drew, do you know who is, since week 9 of the NFL season last year, who is the second highest rated quarterback by PFF grade? It's Trevor Lawrence, behind only Joe Burrow and in front of Patrick Mahomes, who's third. I'm going to make a prediction that if the Jags win this game, then we'll wake up on Monday morning and Trevor Lawrence will be the MVP favorite. I'm not sure if that'll be warranted, but that's generally how this stuff works. We saw what happened to Tua's price. And I'm going to make a prediction that if that happens, I will be betting Patrick Mahomes at plus 1,300 or whatever it is, 02. I want to believe in Lawrence and the Jags. I'm just not. The market certainly doesn't think they're that good if they're 3.5-point dogs at home to the Chiefs. Some questions about their offensive line, which is the concern. Now, maybe the Chiefs aren't the best team on the planet to expose that, but definitely believe in the Jags offense. I think coming into the season, the highest variance player in the NFL was Deshaun Watson, but I think the highest variance skill position player was probably Calvin Ridley. And I think he kind of answered some of that variance of week one, where it's going to be on the higher end of the spectrum, where he was an absolute monster against Indianapolis. We'll see what he does for an encore. But yeah, I believe in the Jags offense. I believe in Lawrence. I believe he's an MVP caliber player already. I think his MVP odds should be shorter than Burrow and Allen, honestly, just because, one, he's one win in front of them and played a lot better than they did. And also, I think he, just in that division, has kind of an easier path to racking up wins. The Jags are bet at minus 190 to win the AFC South because it kind of feels like 105% chance.
I mean, my preseason price on them was in the minus 250 range. I took all of the big prices in the futures markets because I had that huge, delta. I'm not like dying to lay minus one. I think it was minus 150, minus 180, something in that ballpark preseason. And I'm not really into laying that for a full 18-game season, 18-week season. So that was why I tacked into that approach. But it makes a good parlay. Like if you're trying to, get a little more equity in a certain futures bet, putting that in there works for me. I think they got their toughest head-to-head win in division already. It was at Indianapolis. I think the Tennessee Titans get a downgrade based on what you know about that team right now. The Houston Texans, maybe by the time they play them later in the season, they're a challenge, but I'm not really concerned about any of the other AFC South foes.
Very, very grim division. Before we get into another very grim division, the NFC West, a reminder that Bet the Edge isn't the only show every day during the NFL season. You can also check out the Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, Connor Rogers, and me. It airs live on Peacock at noon, re-airs at 4 p.m. Eastern, and is available on our NFL on NBC Sports YouTube channel, as well as wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right, San Francisco 49ers, perhaps the best team in football, 7.5-point favorites against the rampaging Los Angeles Rams. The total is 44.5. I think one of the sneaky big things to come out of week one that perhaps is not covered as much because no one really still takes this team that seriously, but Matthew Stafford looked like a guy who won the Super Bowl 18 months ago and was right in the mix to win Super Bowl MVP if he didn't have a couple of ill-advised picks, which, to be fair, are kind of part of his game. But he looked magnificent against Seattle. And I understand he wasn't up against a great defense, but just athletically and how nimble he looked and just the caliber of throws that he was executing, the vintage Stafford sidearmers that were just getting in there, mainly to the great Puka Nacua. Stafford was the number 2 highest graded quarterback by PFF in week one. So he looked monstrous. The offensive line, which was among many concerns for the Rams, was one of the bigger ones, held up fine, admittedly, again, against not much, a very anemic Seattle pass rush. But how real do you think this Rams team is? Do you think they can give the 49ers any run for their money and keep this within a touchdown?
Scene of the crime, Jay, back in SoFi, where the Rams stole a Super Bowl appearance from the Niners in that NFC Championship game because they couldn't, Niners couldn't intercept a very catchable ball. that would have been game. I think I'm inclined here to look Rams. Market has come back down to earth a bit after getting out to 8. By the way, Niners, man. I don't love teasing that much early in the season just because there is a little bit more variance, it feels like, about some of these teams. But boy, oh boy, what a teaser like Rams -7.5 is. Holy smokes. Excuse me, Niners -7.5 down to 1.5 is incredible. All that said, the defense is still a huge question mark. I don't think Seattle really was able to put the weak portions of this defense to the test because Geno Smith was under duress up the middle, and then they lost their tackles, and then he was in duress from everywhere, and the team kind of just gave up in that game. And so the question here is, we think high likelihood that the Niners are going to get theirs. And covering for the Rams means answering, and covering for Stafford means avoiding the key turnovers, which to this point, it looks like he can do. Some of it maybe just his elbow is feeling better, and so he's a little bit more precise with his ball. We know it's never been really a decision-making thing with him in the turnovers. It's always just been a little bit of a weird, wild accuracy on a given day, and I've always kind of attributed that to the fatigue injury in his elbow. And if that's 100% right now, then he's going to be razor sharp. The Rams have a very realistic chance of covering this number outside of a touchdown. And I think the over is probably live here at 44.5 because, my median projection here, again, I know I'm low on Rams D. I know. I hand up. I'm low on these guys. I think the Niners are going to get into or close to 30. And I think that, if you're going to get 17 points out of the Rams, you could hit this total. If their offensive line does what they did last week, and that's a huge question mark because Seattle's pass rush looked useless. And so I don't know if that was a fair test. But if they play that well again, and Stafford has time, he's going to, you're going to see a lot of the same stuff, I would expect, because there's not necessarily perfect scheme to stop what McVay is trying to do there when the weapons are doing exactly what you asked them to do, and Stafford is being that precise with his ball. So I'm inclined here to believe that the Rams are live-ish. I just have not bet it because I still have a relatively low rating on the offensive line, and that's kind of the number that I have circled here in red pen, because if this offensive line gels and they're giving him time against this test, that this is like the bellwether game that this offense is going to continue to score and into the high 20s. And in this world where, your median total is now 43 and half the games on the board are sub 40, the Rams might actually have one of the better offenses in the NFL. It could be top 10 if the offensive line is as good as we saw last week, but I need to see them do it against a tougher test.
Yeah, a little scarred from week 4 last year where the Rams went into San Francisco. That was back when San Francisco, they were not a juggernaut at that point. That was still, I think that was Jimmy's 3rd game for the season, and they had just eked out. They didn't look entirely right.
Stafford's throwing arm looked like this, though.
And the offensive line was just completely non-viable.
Yeah, very true.
Where they just got wrecked. And also Jalen Ramsey turned into Eli Apple trying to defend against Deebo Samuel, who just absolutely trucked him. So a little bit scarred by that. And I think there is a decent chance that the Niners pass rush will just render the LA Rams offense just completely non-viable. I think that is in play. At the same time, I do believe in Stafford, certainly at least until he gets injured. I do believe in Puka Nacua as well. I think he is real. And he's a very weird prospect because obviously, he wasn't a high draft pick. His college stats weren't crazy outside of yards per route run. When he was actually on the field in college, he was very, very good. So I don't know what's going on, but he certainly looked the part. And there was a lot of buzz about him in preseason, which you never know because there was a lot of buzz about Romeo Doubs last year.
Yep.
But Romeo Doubs never got 15 targets. And that's what Puka Nacua got. And he was absolutely dominant. He looked the part, a little bit like Cooper Kupp out there, just finding the gaps in the defense. He seemed like a huge beneficiary of Stafford's play and McVay's scheme. So I think he might be real. And so between what the offensive line did show, the defense made a lot of jokes about Russ Yeast. Russ Yeast was good against Seattle. So I don't really know what to make of this Rams defense. I would think that they're not great, but I would lean Rams plus 7.5. Seems like a mighty big number this early in the season when there are still some unknowns. But we'll say on the 49ers side of things, have I think I have a decent bet in the futures market on the 49ers, and that's on Brock Purdy to win MVP, which we were talking about before we got on air. He's still 25 to 1 in the market, and I think that is just too biased by his name being Brock Purdy and people still having question marks about the pedigree. I think people had those same question marks about the pedigree of Jalen Hurts this time last year. And that evaporated pretty quickly because when you accumulate wins and stats, you develop pedigree very quickly. And I think Purdy, like if you just look at his first starts in the NFL to this point and extrapolate across a full season, he is across a full season, 39 touchdowns, 5 picks, close to 4,000 yards on the team that is the most likely of any team in the NFL to get a 1 seed. And I think the other thing is that people don't remember that Brock Purdy didn't have Deebo Samuel for much of last season. And then he did. And then Deebo and him clicked pretty quickly in the playoffs. And so I just think that Purdy, because this award is not for who you think the best quarterback in the NFL is. No one thought Matt Ryan was a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers when Matt Ryan won MVP. It's a reward for who has the best season. And I think that Purdy, particularly with how just scattered the AFC is, and just the bad starts that Mahomes, Allen, Burrow have gotten off to, I think that Purdy in an NFC that is much slimmer pickings, I think that price is much too big. What do you think there?
Great take. No notes. You're early, Jay. I feel like you're early. It's not even Brocktober yet, Jay. No, we're gonna beat this to death, I think, because the Niners are gonna keep winning games. This team is so freaking good. Kyle Shanahan is in his bag. This is very, very exciting to kind of have any type of equity in Niners football right now. I don't think there's a wrong way. Like, this team is resilient to injury in so many different ways. They're deep. They have unbelievable defense. That is a really fun way to attack. And I guess, the play when I knew Purdy was like that guy, it was TJ Watt strip sacks him. He's got a surgically repaired elbow and made the decision to try to recover the fumble behind his back with TJ Watt going for the ball. Right? Oh, I'm just going to put my surgically repaired elbow and pin the ball behind I got it. It's recovered. This is possession, right? Like, that type of stuff happening is that's a sign that the game is just moving slowly for him. And that's pretty huge positive for San Francisco. And what a wild turn of events with the way that the quarterback question has been swirling in 2023. And it does feel a little scriptwriter-esque if he does cap it off with an MVP season.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Purdy, and I've always been skeptical on Purdy. I think I watched every snap that he played last year because my Shanahan Coach of the Year ticket. And he did have these just moments of madness last season. But he was also a rookie who was the last pick in the draft, who was a third stringer who was thrown into this situation playing the first games of his career. And the fact that he looked so good against the Steelers, and the fact that Shanahan just binned the number 3 pick in the draft because of his confidence in Brock Purdy, that has to be another indicator that this guy might be for real.
Yeah, that's signal.
Since he became a starter, including playoff games, he is the number 7 graded quarterback by PFF. And I think there is a chance that he is just the 7th best quarterback in the NFL. Like, that's in play. And if you're the 7th best quarterback in the NFL on this team, in this offense, with the 1 seed right there, I think that he is very live. And what looks like already, it could be just a weird MVP year just because of the way that the AFC quarterbacks have started. And the fact that the other 2 big behemoth, well, really, the 3 next best teams in the NFC, Philadelphia, Dallas, and Detroit. Well, Jared Goff's not winning MVP, I don't think. Dak Prescott is a candidate, but again, not super frightening. And then the Eagles offense, look, I think Hurts should be favored over Purdy, but Eagles offense look terrible against the Patriots, and there's still some question marks there. They're going to play a much harder schedule than last year. So I think in the NFC, it is there for the taking, Drew. Be a fun one to track. Feels good to be back in on the Niners. Wasn't long between drinks, between Shanahan Coach of the Year and now Purdy MVP.
Yeah, we just got to dodge the East Coast bias come award season.
Exactly. Yeah. I think Brock Purdy should have, if anyone's going to have some narrative, it would be the last pick in the draft, leading the Niners to the 1 seed. Let's not think about his supporting cast. It's all Brock. All right. Before we get to another team with an incredible sporting cast for an MVP candidate, the Miami Dolphins. This Sunday night, AFC rivals do battle when Mac Jones, Bill Belichick, and the Patriots face Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins. Coverage starts at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock. Now, the Dolphins in Foxborough. The Dolphins are 3-point favorites. The total is 46.5. The market has bought in that the Dolphins are, if not a juggernaut, then pretty close. Because the Eagles closed 4.5 in New England, and so the Dolphins are not far off of that, and the Eagles are rated as close to the best team in football. So, do you agree, Drew? Do you think the Dolphins are a legitimate one-seed contender, deserving favorite in the AFC East?
No. But it's more of the long term than this is a weird, complicated kind of thought process. So bear with me. They're not long term favorites because of the risk of because of the availability questions swirling around Tua.
Sure.
They're not short term bet on because this is a terrible matchup against the Patriots defense, in my opinion. And this is a terrible spot too. You got a Miami team flew across the country last week, played their best game, under Mike McDaniel in LA, fly back to Miami, now go up to Foxborough, play in primetime. Like this is Patriots, they're just at home. Like this is a tough situational spot for a team early in the season. I thought the Miami Dolphins defense left a lot to be desired. So teams are going to score on them, which means if they sputter at all, if Tua has any kind of lackadaisical performances in his bag, then they're going to lose those games. And I think this is potentially one of those. I was hot on the Patriots earlier this week when I thought there was some potential that they might have a healthy offensive line, or at least 3/5 of a healthy offensive line out there. And now we're looking like cluster injury type of situation, which is concerning. But I do think that in general, the Patriots, what their scheme is, what their plan A is on offense matches up well with how you can attack this Dolphins defense as rostered. And then on the flip side, the Patriots can match speed with speed. And I think, I'm sure Belichick has some wrinkles that will be a little bit more confusing, inspiring. He'll have in-game adjustments that are better than Brandon Staley. So I'm on the under here, under 46.5. And I have bet some Patriots to win the East under the hopes that they win this game this week and then welcome Zach Wilson, or they go down and visit Zach Wilson next week. So I think the Patriots, if they get these two divisional wins, that price is going to get annihilated. And so looking for we'll call it a 17 to 13 type of win here against the Dolphins team in primetime.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I think we're going to learn a little bit about the Patriots. We're recording this Thursday late afternoon, so we haven't seen the Eagles-Vikings game, but I think we're going to learn a little bit by if the Eagles are an absolute juggernaut on offense, then that bodes pretty well for that Patriots defense. I understand there was weather involved and week one, whatever. I can't read too much into a one-game sample, but there is a chance that the Patriots defense is just a juggernaut. At the same time, I'm not sure there's any way to really stop this Miami offense, because that's the best game that Tua's ever played. He was an absolute monster against the Chargers when you think that he didn't have Teron Armstead. And when he didn't have Armstead last year, that team was a mess. The fact that he didn't have that, and then also Jalen Waddle is on the injury report every day with this oblique injury, and he's not full go. Tyreek Hill is very full go, and that certainly helps. And as we talked about, don't know why Brandon Staley is playing man coverage against those guys. But if Tua has actually taken a leap, and now you have Tua and the Mike McDaniel system, and Tyreek Hill, and Waddle improving in health, and Teron Armstead, who looks like he's going to be back for this game at this point, then all of a sudden, this has a chance to be the best offense in football, and it might just be completely unguardable. The problem is the defense, which was quietly, well, maybe not quietly, it was just bad against the Chargers and got run all over. And the Patriots, if the offense can do anything, it's probably run the ball with Ramondre Stevenson. Also, sneakily, I think Mac Jones looked fine against Philadelphia, against a really good defense. He looked pretty good, and he brought them almost all the way back, and was probably a toe tap away from potentially winning that game against Philadelphia. So I'm a Mac Jones believer. I buy stock in that guy, and at home, If I was to go either way, I'd probably take Patriots +3. But we could be coming out of that game thinking that maybe the Dolphins are just a juggernaut on offense and are a true Super Bowl contender. Anything else about this one, Drew?
I mean, if we get to 24, I'll put hand up and say that's the case. But I kind of can't even tell you how bad of a spot it is to be doing this much travel this early in the season and expect your guys to be conditioned and be up for a primetime game. This is kind of like the kiss of death of situational spots. So good luck, Dolphins.
Okay, good luck, Dolphins. All right, before we get to our best bets, a reminder, Saturday, September 16th at 11 a.m. Eastern, Vaughn Dalzell, Brad Thomas, and Eric Froton are answering your college football betting questions for week 3. All you have to do is tune into our NBC Sports YouTube page to hear more of their thoughts on multiple top 25 matchups, including number 8 Washington traveling to East Lansing for a battle with Michigan State at 5 p.m. Eastern, only on Peacock. All right, best bets. What do you got, Drew?
We talked about this early in the week. I'm going to stick with the Falcons on the money line. I've kind of been hoping for a better price, hoping that the market would move Packers, but really no one was fooled by, number one, the issues they're dealing with on the offensive side of the ball in terms of skill position players being healthy, having healthy hamstrings. I don't know why every player on the Packers seems to be dealing with that type of injury, but they are. And I think that does open the door for the revamped Falcons defense to do its job. I know that they kind of were the beneficiaries of takeaways in week 1, and that may not happen again all season. But I do like the way that they're rostered to stop the Packers in general, and I would like to see a true test for Bryce Love. I'd like to see a true test for Love, even though Jordan Love, he didn't really have to do much against the Bears, if we're being honest. And then I don't expect much from Desmond Ridder here. I would like to see kind of Art Smith's approach against the Joe Woods defense, because it is, Joe Barry defense. Second time I've done it this week. I'm getting my coordinators who should have been fired last year, the guy who did and the guy who didn't. I'm getting them confused, excuse me. But yeah, the Joe Barry defense, the way it's schemed, kind of exactly hand in glove with what Art Smith wants to do. So I think Falcons more likely the team to score in this contest, and so give me them at home. By the way, Green Bay also second week in a row on the road, although a lot less significant travel.
Yeah, also Green Bay, those injuries are concerning, particularly at receiver. We'll see what happens there with Christian Watson and exactly how full go Romeo Doubs can be in particular. I am with you on the Falcons. It's a little bit more of Green Bay before believing that they're a team that's going to really contend for the NFC North, because I don't think they were up against much against Chicago. My best bet is the Bengals -3 against the Ravens, and this is mainly just because of Baltimore's health situation. Looks like Ronnie Stanley and Tyler Linderbaum are going to both be out. That's 40% of their offensive line. J.K. Dobbins obviously is on injured reserve. Marcus Williams is out as well. Marlon Humphrey still not practicing. Mark Andrews is practicing, but he was limited, and I imagine that he's not going to be 100%. And then also, Lamar Jackson was not good at all against Houston. He wasn't awful, but he wasn't far off it. And the fact that it looks like there's going to be some growing pains in this Todd Monken offense leads me to believe that Baltimore are just not the team that they're going to be a few weeks from now, when everyone, or at least everyone who can get back healthy, is. And Cincinnati, I'm not reading too much into that beatdown by Cleveland. I think Cleveland have a really good defense. I think the weather played a part. I think that Joe Burrow not having a preseason and coming off the calf injury all played a part. I think that they will now be better for the run. And I think that when you factor in the injuries, and certainly Cincinnati will be very incentivized to win this game, as will Baltimore, obviously. But Cincinnati will not want to go down 0-2, so I like them to cover 3. What do you think of Cincinnati?
We ride. Let's go, Burrow. I'm going to be watching every minute of that game, because I'm very concerned about, if it's a long-term thing or if he bounces back pretty quickly. But a full another week of practice should be exactly what the doctor ordered in terms of getting his timing and his mechanics right.
Yep. Okay. Cincinnati and Atlanta it is. All right. Don't forget to check out NBCsports.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks for those watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. Please don't forget to rate and subscribe if you're listening in podcast form. And also a reminder to find all your favorite NBC Sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. From Jay Croucher and Drew Dinsick, we'll see you next week.